All right. That sounds good. Yeah, it looks good to me. Okay. Hello and welcome to another, in this case, episode 34 of the Ramblestream. Today, the 25th of March. It's actually pretty warm out. I've got a new t-shirt. And I figured since it's warm enough, I'd wear it. I got this when I was out in Portland from Sabatino Moto. Couldn't turn down a good ridiculous moped shirt. Well, hello and welcome, fellow Ramblers. It's good to have you. We got a really packed program this evening for the Ramblestream, so I'm going to do my best to work through it as quickly as I can. It looks like we've already got a ton of comments, so I will just briefly take a peek at those. We got Bob Benstead. Well, first of all, welcome all of you all. If you're, as I usually say, if you're returning Ramblers, you know the drill. Tell us what you're sipping on, where you're from, your handle, if you choose to do that, and what your Janus bike is, or bikes are, and what their serial numbers are. It's always fun to see that. Let me see if I can. I took the chat box out. Let's see if it'll actually populate now. I got rid of the chat box last week, and then I realized that you can see it on the desktop after the fact, but you can't when let's see. Maybe it won't pop up now. Oh, there it is. There, it's popping up. You can't see it on your iPhone. So I'm going to put it back in again. And we'll see how that goes. So got that housekeeping out of the way. Comments real quick here. We're going to look at some comments. We got Bob Benstead, Sturgis, South Dakota on his 450. Ray Gates, Taylorsville, Illinois, speaking Gentleman Jack, and waiting for April 8th when I pick up my black Halcyon Origin 250, number 1055, which we got to take a look at, I believe, last week. And we'll take a look at some more builds this week. Jordy's on 450, number 44. Aluminum fenders went on. Easier than installing fenders on a bicycle. Wow, fantastic. Tom is on from Wisconsin on his Halcyon 250. Grant's here with some very low number Griffin and Phoenixes. We got Ray says, when will we have the gas bottle and bracket for the Halcyon 250? We will be working on that. I have not started on that yet, so it's going to be a little bit. We got a lot of upgrades to get through first, but we'll do it. We'll make it happen. We'll use the same system. It'll just have to have a different bracketing system. Jim Winters, Gary, Indiana, 1962 Ducati Scrambler. Oh, so you're listing your Scramblers. Nice. Whoa. 1962 Ducati Scrambler, 1964 Ducati Scrambler, 1965 Ducati Scrambler, 65 Honda 305. Wonderful. We're going to talk about that this evening, like we did last week. And a Griffin 450 number 3, enjoying a two-hearted. Well, Jim, it's great to have you. That's fantastic. Joel, just talking to Joel today. Old Man 1, Halcyon 450 number 218, and soon to have Griffin 450 number 1 in Kansas City. Hazelnut coffee. Mike here, chilling with an iced tea. Halcyon 250 number 1020. Multifarious, always good to see you. 1067. So you probably are still waiting on yours, Multifarious. Jeff says Halcyon 250, Florida, Buffalo Trace. Had a local Popo follow me around town for a bit today. Speed limit was 34 to 45. He sure wasn't in a hurry to pass me. Nice. Confed Yank is on. We got Jeff Massey. Lots of people, names that I recognize, which we're not going to get through all of them. Scott Spence is on. Scott was in the shop today. 250 number 212 and 450 number 178. And then we're going to share some cool things that Scott was able to share with us today. So, all right. Let's go ahead and move on. We got to keep the pace moving here. Next up is our poem for today. Today's will not be as long as last week's poem relatively short, and I actually kind of forgot about selecting it until about 10 minutes ago, so I just picked up this. Actually, I mean, I've had this book for a long time. I'm not as familiar with Borges as I probably should be, but I found one that looked like it would be a good one. It's called Compass, and we'll see how you like it. Compass by Jorge Luis Borges. Every single thing becomes a word in a language that someone or something, night and day, writes down in a never-ending scribble, which is the history of the world, embracing Rome, Carthage, you, me, everyone, my life, which I do not understand, this anguish of being enigma, accident, and puzzle, and all the discordant languages of Babel. Behind me, each name lies that which has no name. Behind each name lies that which has no name. Today I felt its nameless shadow tremble in the blue clarity of the compass needle, whose rule extends as far as the far seas, something like a clock glimpsed in a dream, or a bird that stirs suddenly in its sleep. There we have it. I don't have the translator of that. Of course, that would have been in Spanish to begin with. But a good one. Very good. Clocks, compasses, sea, all the right topics for the Ramblers, the Ramblestream. Okay, so next up, we'll take another quick look at comments. Multifarious says he enjoyed the flat stream updates. Nice. I'll go over that in a little bit here. We're going to do a little recap of the flat track, what's going on. If you missed that, we'll cover it. Darren Price is on. Roger Junt from the Black Hills. James Chadbourne, 250, number 644, somewhere north of Boston, enjoying a Tuckerman's Pale Ale and wheeling the salt off the roads. Well, you're a little behind us in the weather then. I don't recognize that name, but welcome. If you've been on before, my apologies. I haven't seen you. We got Scott. Jeff says, has anyone here purchased and used the goggles, considering a pair? My eyes are red with windburn today. Yeah, I don't know how people ride with some kind of eye protection. I mean, I use a full face with a visor, but I have ridden dual sporting with goggles, and I have not actually ridden with our new Halcyon goggles, but I think I'm going to get a pair and start wearing them in the spirit of scrambling. I think I'm going to make that a thing. We got some new faces, says Grant. Yep. Mark Stevens, Halcyon 250 number 643, Beam and Coke. Hello from Westland, Michigan. Good to see you. David Hyde is checking in, drinking Cabernet. Dan Rademski, howdy from the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. Sipping on a thing. Not sipping on a thing. I should say I'm drinking water. Lots of water lately. I'm trying to drink more water. Richard Brown, Ricky B. here in snowy Minnesota. Looking forward to a motorcycle trip to come visit your place in May. Do I need to sign up in advance to test drive a 450 and a tour of your facility? You don't have to, but it really helps us make sure that we have one ready for you. We do have some Discovery Day dates coming up. I might as well just go ahead and cover those now since we've mentioned it. We have 3 Discovery Days, one in April, May, and June. The April date is the 13th. So April 13th is a Saturday. We have a Discovery Day that'll be in the morning. Usually they start about 9 a.m. We have one on May 11th and June 8th. Now, you do not have to come to a Discovery Day to come and visit and tour the factory and take a test ride. However, the Discovery Days are a lot of fun. I think it's, $25 or $30 for we get you lunch. We have bagels and whatever, donuts maybe in the morning and coffee. And it's a real experience. And a lot of folks, maybe some of them on this stream, yes, definitely some in this stream, met each other at the Discovery Day where they bought their bikes, and they're still hanging out at the owner's rally or otherwise. So they can be a really wonderful experience. Of course, that said, you do not have to. All you need to do is really what we recommend is give us a call or an email and say, hey, I'm going to be in town this time. I'd love to take a test ride. Can you help me out? Weekends can be a little difficult for us, but during the week we're always available, and we can usually make something work if you really want to test ride one, because we want you to buy one. So yeah, did I mention the last date is June 8th? So April 13th, May 11th, and June 8th. We got Jordy says, like your shirt. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Gary was one of those people who came in at a Discovery Day and met other riders that bought bikes at the same time. Gary has Halcyon 250 number 79, 450 number 3, Phoenix 250 number 79, incidentally the last one, and he's sipping on a Diet Dr. Pepper. Good to see you, Gary, as always. We got Mark Yeesh, Halcyon 972, Helena, Montana. First time on. Welcome. It is so good to have you. Great to see you. Hope you come back for more. We got Francis Gertz. He says, I actually got the goggles for bicycling. They work perfectly. Don't fog up in the ultra cold weather. Fantastic. Good to see you. I don't recognize your name on here either, Francis. Good to see you. Michael Webster. Hey, from Horton, Michigan. Steve Rice, 969 from Syracuse, finally joining. Well, welcome. Dave Dixon, Halcyon 450 number 266. Thanks for the nice note and gift, Dave. I still have to get out a thank you to you. Jeff says, thank you. Charles McGahagan is on from the Eastern Shore. Good to see you as always. Another multi-bike owner. Keith is on Rare Breed, Utica, New York. If you guys have any new designs of a motorcycle, could you share with us? Well, I'll be talking about our latest model this evening, the Scrambler. Chris Smith, number 367, sipping on Fathead Lime Feeling Good Mexican Lager. Who was I just talking to? Oh, talking about you going cross country, possibly? Tell us more about that. The Felix Brothers, woohoo, H450, number 120 and 121 here. Good to see you both, if that's both of you. David Hunter, hi Richard, today I thought of Janus again when I was looking at our historic lightweight motorcycle, the Honda RC116. Yes, 50cc that hit an astounding 118 miles per hour. Stunning bike. Yeah, that is a incredible motorcycle. There's some great videos of that thing ripping around. Charles says, finally getting the Phoenix 30 delivered at 7 tomorrow. Bought online at Meekum. Fantastic. Brent is on, drinking a mudslide. House Griffin 250 number 145 pending. And Brent, your build is on the stand. I'm not sure if I've included a photograph of it in the update just because it's not done yet, but it's on the stand. Willard Small, Victory Brewing, Juicy Monkey, a Hazy Imperial IPA in Maple Shade, New Jersey. Welcome. David says, I'm flabbergasted that you're a motorcycle guy into poetry. You're unlike any motorcycle guy in my family. Well, we like to break the mold here at Janus, don't we? James Chadburn was once before, but my username didn't match me. Change it to make sense. Great. Well, good. Gary, because I read the Ramblers Companion yesterday, I had to go on a ride today with the cell phone in my pocket and no music, just listening to the engine. It was great. Well, that's awesome. It's more of an arts gathering. Racing the Sun says, is the Janus crew doing the DGR again this year? Yes, we are, and I will be posting more about that. I've already been doing some poking at it. We will be posting it. It's not even open for registration yet, but we will be, and it will be a lot of fun. So look for updates here. Rowan says, almost missed this. Family lol. 250 Origin 1052 double chocolate mocha freeze. Got my delivery date email today. That's awesome. Congrats. Joel says he has the goggles. Oh yeah, Joel got his, especially with prescription lenses. Yep, Chris says going cross country. Nicholas G checking in. Kelly Chrisman's checking in. And there we go. Russell Peters is in. Detlef sitting in Kalamazoo. All right. Oh, Steve Rice says DGR opened yesterday. Well, I'm a little late, but yes, we're going to be getting started on that very soon. All right. Well, let's go ahead and go into those build updates for the week. Our new feature. I'm going to switch over to the right slide here. Okay, well, this one is one that I had to share because it's not done yet, but check out that color scheme. We'll do a full feature on this bike. It's going to be very special. It's got a custom fuel cap, among other things. But yeah, quite the bike. Sorry, we're going to get ahead of ourselves here. Okay, first up, we have number 1057, which actually does not have anyone's name on it yet. It is a inventory origin build. So this would be a great example for anyone who's curious about the origin builds, what they look like. This is one right here, and we built this one in British Racing, or this is actually, sorry, it's actually British Racing Green, but we call it Indy Racing Green with gold pinstripe. And the origin line, of course, has no fender pinstripe, no airbox pinstripe, just the tank graphics hand pinstriped, and no upgrades other than that. But a stunning and simple machine. Really the essence of a pared down motorcycle, like we'll see in tonight's presentation. Next up, we have another origin build. This one is number 1058. It's another inventory bike, vintage red and gold, with the other one sitting behind it there. So another classy example of the origin line. And now we have Halcyon 450 number 249 for Ray, and this one is OD green with copper primary pinstripe and a black secondary. Really, really snappy looking. Looks like he's also got gold pinstripe on the wheels, headlight visor, brushed exhausts, saddle brown leather, and at this point, this photograph is taken before saddlebags will go on, so I don't know if he's going to have saddlebags on there or not, but really a snappy, stunning looking bike. Tank logo hasn't even gone on yet, so, but it's off the build stand. Okay, next up, number 450, and I had to include this because it's really a neat representation of the origin, how we do the origin 450 tank logo. This is number 252, Halcyon 250 number 450 number 252, belonging to Lucas, and this is a black machine with gold pinstripe, and this is an origin 450. So there's just one color on here. Instead of having the background like the classic 450, it has just the black, just the outline essentially. What would normally be black on a classic. And there it is in the flesh. Really a lovely, I really like the way these origins come together. I'm not sure if it's actually an origin or if you ordered it this way, but either way, really great looking bike. And there we are back to the hot pink on black. Matches my t-shirt. All right. Okay, so that's the update. There are more bikes that are on the stands right now, but they're not off and photographed yet. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm only going to post them up what we've been working on it once they come off the stand. That way you can actually see the whole bike, and it'll actually mean a little more that way. So more to come next week. Okay, let's go over some updates. Look at some comments first. Confed Yank says, David Hunter, this is why I'm struggling finding a place to move to. And cities tend to have that problem, unfortunately. Motorcycle parking. Bikes being stolen. Yeah, it can be difficult. Brent says, can I ride my Griffin in the DGR? I can't. I would imagine so. DGR is still a ways out, so I would imagine you could. And if you can't, you could probably ride your Harley too. But that would be really great. Rowan says, thanks for remembering the pronunciation. Yes, absolutely. I should know better. I mean, it's the way that it's pronounced, right? Like the previous Archbishop of Canterbury was named Rowan, if I remember correctly. Russell says, Tri-State VIN Moto out of Evansville, Indiana DGR. Oh, cool. David says, yep, cities are impossible to have motorcycles, especially today when thievery is legalized and not prosecuted. It's difficult, certainly. I love that olive green and gold bike. So simple. Yeah, me too. Joel says they have progressive lenses and also, he's talking about his goggles. They have progressive lenses and also transition for riding on bright days. That's incredible. And they fit in the Halcyon goggles. Gary says, any update on the shipping for the 250 Sergeant's seat? Should be soon. I know I've completed all the design work for that weeks ago, so I don't actually have an update on that, sorry, but very soon. That's all the work has been done, and there's all it takes is getting the seat pans in again, Gary. They fit just like they do on a 450, so we have all the leather and the foam. So it shouldn't be long. Lo-Fi by Nature. I feel like I recognize that name. I really like the outline version of the feather logo on the Origin models. Yeah, me too. I really like it. Kelly says, someone please explain to me the meaning of DGR. Oh, my apologies. DGR is the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. And the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, let's go over to this screen real quick and I'll pull it up for y'all. Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. We'll even look up the date. How about that? Go back over to the inset screen. All right, so this is the DGR. It's a fantastic event. It's held every year. It's been going on for maybe 10 years at this point. I can't remember which the first, 2014 maybe. But riders around the globe gather. You don't have to be a gentleman. Well, you should be a gentleman, but if you could also be a lady. Gather around the world in cities, towns, hamlets, and ride their vintage motorcycles wearing their most dapper apparel. And it's all the funds, you can raise funds for it. Basically, you say, I'm riding in the DGR, I'm trying to raise money for men's health, cancer prevention, and mental health. And you raise money from people around you in the community. And it's a really great event. Janus will be creating a team. And so we can all pool our money together as a team. And that can be donated to the organization in Janus's name if you want to, or you can do it on your own. It's really fun, though, to see. I think last year we were over $6,000. We did a lot. It was way more than I thought it was going to be. So I'm really looking forward to participating. It's a great cause and a fun event, especially if you live in a big city. This is one opposite of where you all are saying about it's impossible to have a motorcycle in a big city. It may be difficult, but boy, it's fun to ride in a big 300 bikes all going through the city at the same time is really fun. So, yeah. Let's see if there's good pictures. Yeah, I mean, it's just a fun event. Everybody dresses up in their best, and a lot of fun. Okay, moving along. More comments. Let's see if we can get them all. Gentle person. I don't like being gender neutral. Rowan says, that's more info on my name than I have. Thanks. Brent says, I was thinking DGR was selective about the type of bike you can ride. That's why I asked. Yeah, they are, but I mean, I've seen all kinds of bikes, so you're not going to be turned away on anything. Better, I mean, it's sponsored by Triumph, so people show up on brand new Triumphs all the time. Dave Bowen. Hey, Dave. Hello from Seattle. Sorry I'm late, but I was talking 450s with a future Janus customer. Man, Dave is selling us motorcycles. James Chadburn says, I have taken the Ural to the DGR NYC with a passenger twice. The experience was amazing. Riding around the city with hundreds of other bikes and a police escort. Yeah, if you go to Chicago, they don't even have a police escort. They just, or at least they didn't in the past. It was just shut down, cork all the intersections, and blast up Lakeshore Drive. So much fun. Jeff says, is a Rowan a Highland or an Islay? Dan says, Brent, they put the most classic bikes at the front. All bikes are welcome. I've done it on a Triumph, Ural, and a Harley. Yeah. There you go. Okay. next up, let's take a look at some events coming up, and we'll start off, because you'll have already talked about it, with our participation this year in Sturgis. Janus Motorcycles will be attending the Sturgis Rally in Sturgis, South Dakota. We're partnering with the Buffalo Chip that puts on the party. So we're going to be there in a really big way. We will be there for the full 10 days of the rally. I'll be out there for at least part of it, as well as other teams. We're going to kind of trade off because it's such a long time. And the other exciting news is that we will be racing. Our debut on the flat track will be at Sturgis. We have a flat track team, which I can pull up here for you. Right here, we have, we're partnering with Blake Wharton and Jordan Lake for our first ever flat track team. And so a little bit of history on Jordan and Blake. They go way back. Jordan has run dirt bike schools. His family's been into motorcycle racing for a long time. Jordan is an engine builder and frame builder, and the two of them really bring a lot of experience and skill to this partnership. We bring the motorcycle, and the goal is going to be, I was really amazed. I thought, well, they're probably going to replace the forks and redo a lot of stuff, but they really like the aesthetic of the new Griffin. And so they're going to be trying to run basically as close to stock form as possible. Of course, there will be a lot of work done to the engine. They're going to be reinforcing some parts of the bike, but the tank will look similar. And they're even thinking they're going to run the leading link fork. So we're really excited about seeing how it comes together. We've put them in touch with Hoosier Tire, which is just right down the road. And Hoosier makes a flat track tire. So it's going to be a fantastic opportunity to see a Janus motorcycle on the flat track, kicking up some dirt. And we really look forward to it. So the dates for Sturgis this year are, which also happens to be the 84th anniversary of Sturgis, happens on the August 2nd through 11th in Sturgis, South Dakota. So I have never been to Sturgis. I know there's probably several of you out there who have not been to Sturgis, but if you ever have considered it, even if you haven't considered it, now is the time. I think this will be a really fun year to go. We're going to be going back next year as well. So we're really looking forward to it. I already covered Discovery Days, April 13th, May 11th, and June 8th. Sign up for those on our website. Basically you go up here on the site and tour and test. There's a little drop down, and if you go underneath that Janus Discovery Days, I just clicked it. You'll see it pop up here, and you can select what date you want. It's got a description, and you can buy a ticket. And it talks about the schedule at 9 a.m. to around 12:30. It's a lot of fun. Good chance to try out a Janus. Next up, we have happening on April 12th through 15th, the Land Between the Lakes Moto Camping Trip. That's put on by Janus owners. That's not going to be, I probably will not be able to make that one. It's down in Kentucky. Get on the owners forum for more with questions about that. I think Carl Mann, who's pretty active on the forum, has more information on that. So I encourage you to check that out. Land Between the Lakes camping trip for Janus down in Kentucky. And last but not least, we have on May 3rd, Janus will be partnering with Duluth Pack in Duluth, Minnesota. There's going to be a big open house at their store in downtown Duluth, and we'll be launching a new collaboration with them of bags, which they're really absolutely gorgeous. If you know anything about Duluth Pack, they make really great bags. They got started in the late 19th century making bags for the Voyageur industry and the copper industry up in Duluth, and they've been making lovely waxed or canvas bags ever since then. And so we're really excited. We've got some prototypes already in house. I've been ripping around on them, testing them out, and we'll be launching those soon. probably a little bit before that event, but that's going to be the kind of grand opening. I've heard from Tom, the owner, that they're also going to have some really cool swag to hand out to Janus owners that show up. They're going to have parking roped off if you decide to show up. So I would really encourage you, if you're in the Minnesota, Wisconsin, the far north, as they say, to consider attending that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So there we have it for events. And boy, 7:30. I am on schedule here. So we got a great presentation. I'm going to be talking about the history of the scrambler and a little bit about kind of all the things, the motorcycles that have come before the Griffin, the Janus Griffin 450, and kind of what our philosophy on why the Griffin makes so much sense for a company like Janus to be building, and why I've just been having an absolute blast learning about scrambling and scramblers, and just I've really been kind of bowled over by the connections between scrambling and rambling. Should have known, but they're intimately related. So I'm very excited about talking about this. So let's see if we have any more comments before we move over. Dave Bowen says DGR, a bunch of cosplaying hooligans. Grant says Justin owes you a beer at the rally. Dan Rademski sponsored the team. Great, awesome. I think that's wonderful. Yeah, I should also mention. Sorry, let's go back real quick to the flat track team. The best part of the whole story is, I got sidetracked, that this is a race team that we are going to be. This is separate from Janus Motorcycles. We are going to be sponsoring it by giving motorcycles and motorcycle parts and helping them out in every way we can. But this is an opportunity for all of you all, the Ramblers, to also be part of the team. And so we've opened it up to different levels of sponsorship opportunities. And this could be, one of the categories down here we have, it's $100 is a proud Rambler. What you get if you donate $100 is Janus bike number, your number and name included on promo materials, and you'll receive an inaugural flat track sponsor badge and poster. And then there's some other options going up from there. So if you maybe have a business and you want to sponsor it, you can go at a higher level. Or if you feel like you want to give them $1,000 toward this, different levels. They're all on this page. So if you go to our blog, it's all under Janus Flat Track Team. And I will actually post a link up. I've already got some links here, but I will post a link below this video so that if you're watching now or if folks watching later can find this. But at the bottom of this page, there's a sponsorship form that you can fill out, and you can actually sponsor directly through that. And those funds go directly to the Jordan and Blake for their needs as a race team. And I guess I should cover the things what they're going to, these funds are going toward trailer or toy hauler and branding, flat track components, race day site and equipment, transportation tools and fuel, and racing gear. So it's a worthy cause. You can see here there's a rendering. They're going to have some amazing Janus racing leathers to go on it. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this. Okay, well, let's go on to scrambling. So I just wrote on Friday a blog post on our website. It's called "What is a Scrambler Part 1, A History of Specialization." And so kind of the thesis of what I'm arguing is that in the earliest days, and this is something that I think you'll find true of most things, when it's first a new sport or a new pursuit is, or a new invention is arrived at, it's usually, first of all, it's not very well developed, and it's kind of in its fledgling stage, but also it's typically at a much less specialized state than what it will become later. So as far as motorcycles go, in the early days of cars or motorcycles, a car was just kind of like a car was a car and a motorcycle was a motorcycles were kind of universal, and they were designed to do everything in the sense, but they were also probably fairly limited in the fact that they were just very rudimentary. All that said, people in the early 20th century did some incredible things with their motorcycles, including things like these 6 days trials. So the earliest kind of races were this kind of trial they would run. And I'm sure people were racing at speed too, but there just weren't, well, you got to imagine, and I'll show you footage and pictures here of what the roads looked like. They didn't have, these roads were designed for a maximum speed of a horse, right? This is the dawn of motorized travel. So roads were not like we experience them today, and you just couldn't go that fast. And then also, the whole concept of racing was very different at that point. So these are the first kind of competition. And these, when I say competition, what I mean is that these were a trial. It was basically an event where there were a lot of different ways of scoring different things. So speed, braking, this ACU, this is from the 1920 ACU 6 days trial. They actually had a category for how quiet the motorcycle was. And you actually won points for how quiet the bike was, which I think is very interesting. It tells you about how different motorcycles were 104 years ago. So basically, these bikes were pretty universal, and that people were doing some kind of incredible things with them. Let's go to the next slide. Here's a good photograph of some of these people getting ready to ride. And these were, privateers. These weren't necessarily, well, they certainly weren't teams. This was somebody's like, hey, I'm going to ride my motorcycle. And the goal of these events was, from what I can understand, to enrichen the sport. And there were probably, maybe they were somewhat, the press about these events was probably maybe offset, some of the was sponsored by manufacturers or dealers trying to promote the idea of motorcycling. But all these categories and these ways that they would score them were things that would they were designed to improve motorcycling in general. Here you go. And basically the other thing I was going to say is that the difference between a road and what wasn't a road, I argue, is what wasn't as distinct either. Because they were just pretty, everything was pretty rudimentary. And so they were, while a lot of these events were on the roads were pretty rough, and there were fords, and they were just, look at this guy going up a hill, crowds of people watching. But not as much of a race in the sense of like high speed. Sidecars have always been a big part of them. They still are in some of these events. More sidecars with beautiful stone walls. Another sidecar. And this was happening with cars as well. A lot of sidecars. A little later. So, but the kinds of motorcycles that people were running in these events were really, starting off, they were very stock machines and very unspecialized. Gradually, as people started to do these more, the manufacturers started offering what they called a clubman model. And clubman models typically had a little bit wider handlebars. They had the exhausts, like this Montgomery motorcycle here, were upswept or high mounted. So because you're going through fords, or you're going over rocks, or rocks are flying up, denting them. So they're starting to become a little bit more specialized as they kind of progressed along. But still, the idea was, this is a motorcycle that can do everything you want from it. And they were also designed to be able to get you to work during the week as well. I don't know if anybody here recognizes this dapper looking individual, but this is George Brough himself. This is him. He competed in the 1922 ACU 6 days trial on this machine, dressed to the nines. That's an early Brough. Pretty big for what was that last bike we saw, a single cylinder, probably a 500 or maybe less. Actually, this is a 350. This is a 350. Would be more typical because you got to imagine how heavy, muscling something like this along would have been. Here's a Clubman 350. This is a new Imperial, a little later, 1936. So, but you can still see this is a pretty standard looking motorcycle. Matchless 350 and also came in a 500. 62 pounds. This is the 1930, late 30s race. This is an ISDT. So this is the International 6 days trial. So they had a lot of these different 6 days trials all over especially in Europe. Really, there were never any in the United States. It was a very different kind of sport, which we'll get into in a little bit. But the ISDT was basically like the Olympics of this kind of motorcycling. And it was held in different countries every year. So then by the 1940s, 40s, we start seeing slightly more specialized machines. Now this one is, I've talked about this one before. This one's been updated with a car strut, and it's got a different rear suspension, highly modified over the years, but it kind of influenced when I was designing the Griffin 250, really influenced my thinking on it. But it was really going to be this bike here. This is the Triumph TR5, the TR5 Trophy. And this machine was really like pretty groundbreaking when it came out. 500cc, 25 horsepower, 24 horsepower. Perfect for the kind of trials riding. I should kind of step back a little bit and say that by the late 20s, you had trials riding, and then trials riding was this really orchestrated, all these different scoring categories and rules, I guess. You'll see people at the corner. Well, let me show you a video. There's no sound on this, but you can at least watch. And you'll see at the corners or watching, there are folks with little notebooks, and see right there, and they're noting down different things about the bikes, recording how well they do different things. Look at this Morgan three-wheeler. Look at that road, though. So they're just putzing along, and somewhat limited by the suspension of the machines, I'm sure. Smoke pouring out the back of that one. Oh, there's some water crossings. There's a sidecar. Let's see if we can get here we go. Look at this. They're really putting these bikes through their paces, though. And see the guys over here with the notebooks? They're observing the trial. And these were going for 6 days. So anyway, this was happening, but at the same time, they came up with something called a scramble, or a hare scramble. And a scramble was the idea of, instead of going along a road over a period of days or hours, they would go point to point from one location to another cross country. And so this is where it was more off-road, gravel, streams, hills, grass, off-road. And they're much shorter, real quick, probably much more technical riding. And those were called scrambles. And so this would have been more of a scrambler motorcycle here. So this is like one of the first production scramblers for that kind of sport. But again, this is a bike that you could ride to work on the highway. This is a road legal, fun, capable machine that you can do just about anything on. There's a Velocet from the 40s. And then Harley Davidson even got into it. And really, I think that it could be argued that the Sportster gets its look and its origin in kind of trying to meet this demand, because that Triumph Trophy became incredibly popular in the United States. in the period late 40s after the war, early 50s, and would go on in the hands of folks. Well, we'll get to that point on the West Coast. Turned into a really capable desert racer, a faster, heavier bike that could really tear along. On the East Coast, however, of America, where again England was selling tons of these bikes to the United States, where they became very popular. On the East Coast, riders were more interested in enduro riding or early like scrambler races, so shorter races rather than these long desert races, higher speed. And they were racing these BSAs. And there was a guy named John Penton who raced a BSA. And here he is, John Penton himself, racing in the International 6 Days Trial later on a later bike bearing his name. But he was racing, and he watched a Husqvarna win at the Jack Piner Enduro. And he thought, that's a really cool bike. I'm going to try a lighter weight machine than the Harley Davidson I'm riding. Or maybe it was I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was a British bike he saw, and it was lighter than the heavy Harley he was racing. So he tried that out. Then he got into Husqvarnas, rode with Husqvarna for a while, and then eventually really started understanding the benefits of lightweight machines for the kind of riding that he was doing, International 6 Days riding and scrambles. And he ended up going to Husqvarna and asking, hey, can you make a lighter weight, smaller displacement machine to compete in, that I could work with? And they didn't bite. And so then he went to another German manufacturer called KTM. And KTM at that point was making mopeds and bicycles. And he said, hey, can you make a lightweight enduro for me? And I think they started with a 125, and then they made all the way up to a 400cc bike. And they were incredibly successful, really state of the art for their time. John Penton was a guy, he was from Ohio, and he created KTM motorcycles by licensing them and importing them into the United States. So I mentioned Scott Spence, who's on the chat. Scott, in the 1960s, I believe you told me, raced a Penton in high school. And Scott today brought by, check this out. This is his original Penton jersey. There's the Penton logo on that side, and check out the back. Let's see if I can get the whole thing. Penton, built for champions. This is an original jersey, so we're gonna frame this thing. Thank you so much, Scott. This will be a great addition to the Janus Rambler Museum. Pretty cool piece of history there. And another really neat piece of history that makes me extremely proud to have had this happen is this is yours truly here with the Griffin 250, and that is 92-year-old John Penton at Mid-Ohio. That's been 8 years ago. It was such an honor to be able to show him the Griffin, and he liked it. It was pretty cool. So there, that's like a prototype rack we have on there. We didn't end up going with that, but I always thought that was really neat. So we have a little bit of a connection there with John Penton and the Griffin. But anyway, meanwhile on the West Coast, these cool cats like Steve McQueen and Bud Ekins were racing these Triumphs, and the Triumphs. Basically, desert racing is very different than out here on the East Coast or Midwest here, but like Ohio and further east, where it's much more technical and slow and more windy and, I guess just technical is a good term for it. But out on the West, they did these big, long races, and it was really more about high speed. So they could get these heavier Triumphs, like the one in The Great Escape. And this kind of riding also contributed to the popularity of the scrambler. as a motorcycle that could just do everything and anything, and you could look really cool doing it, like Steve McQueen here on a Husqvarna, escaping. Really a moving image of the fun you can have on two wheels. So a little bit different approach out there on the West Coast, but still we're talking about a motorcycle that was very similar to what you rode on the street. And in the blog post, I basically say they're like twins. There was always a road-going version and an off-road version, and that's true of that Veloset. The Triumph was it's just a version of a road-going bike that they had put knobby tires on, high exhaust. Maybe they re-geared it, put some wider handlebars on it, but knobby tires. But a universal motorcycle that could kind of do everything. Then we can't talk about the Scrambler without mentioning Honda. In the early 60s, I want to say like 61, 62, Honda launched the CL version of their CB77, and that was called the CL77, and it was a 305 cc. I think somebody mentioned in here they had a 305, a 305 cc twin. It was a much higher revving engine, very different than these big British Thumpers and the Pentons, which were also real torquey bikes. And they launched it by getting this guy's Bud Aiken's brother Dave to ride, who's actually an ISDT racer, down to Baja, all the way to La Paz. And they did two things with that. They inspired the Baja 1000, and they cemented the popularity and fame and reliability of the Honda CL line. Which, here's a great example. I think this is not a 61, a little later, but a beautiful Scrambler. And again, this is the Scrambler version of a street bike. There was the CB77 is just a fantastic, I've ridden one, fantastic little street bike. And so classic example of a Scrambler. And the CL, I'm not sure, the CL350, actually they won the Baja 1000 a couple of years later. So really a lot of history, and they were quite competitive, even with this sort of, they were not, this is not a dirt bike. This is a street bike or a motorcycle that they've kind of adapted in two different directions, a twin of a street going version. Can't get enough of this. Look at that exhaust. Reminds us of look at the Griffin exhaust. There's a CL350. That was what won down at Baja. And by today's standards, this is a tiny motorcycle. Tiny motorcycle. Many of you all will recognize this machine here, the Trail 90, the Trail 70s and Trail 90s. A lot of riders, a lot of Janus owners got started riding on these. Very capable off-road machine. You're not flying in the air on this thing. You're not, aggressive motocrossing, but you're having a lot of fun on the pavement and on the dirt. Suzuki 305, and everybody got in on this. It wasn't just the Japanese and the English, the Italians. Now, there weren't very many of these MV Agustas. They were very expensive and absolutely gorgeous, but even the Italians got in. Somebody here in the chat was saying, I can't remember who said you had all the Ducatis. Oh, that was Jim Winters. Yeah, this is a Ducati 250 here. Beautiful bike. And then if you look at the new Ducati, I think they trademarked Scrambler. Totally weird, but it's like a 900cc bike. Or maybe it's 700. I can't remember. But the new Ducati, they really reference this tank design and shape. And then there's quite a few dirt bikes, or not dirt bikes, early scramblers that used a leading link fork, such as this Grieve, or actually, what is this? This is a Sox. So a Sox, a Dot English motorcycle with, look at that leading link. Look at that thing. And there's a Greaves with a leading link. And there is the Griffin 450 prototype. So, basically by 1970, yeah, this was the story. The bikes were getting more capable off-road, but they were still a motorcycle that could be had fun with just about anywhere. And they weren't these specialized machines. However, in the 70s, all that was going to change with the invention of the monoshock rear suspension and the hyper specialization of motorcycles. And that's kind of the story of I think, I talk about in the Rambler's Companion, and you all have heard me talk about this too, the idea of technical features becoming more important than the experience of riding and the fun you can have. And I think that that's really true. You can see this happening here in the story of the Scrambler, where it starts off as basically a bunch of ladies and gentlemen. There were women riders in these trials back in the 1920s as well, having a lot of fun, stopping for tea, a picnic, and just having a lot of fun to scrambles, which was just everyday people out riding, to folks like Scott, who was not a sponsored rider. He's like a teenager. His parents were really cool and bought him a Penton. All these folks enjoying motorcycling, and even the Steve McQueen kind of aspect of On Any Sunday. If any of y'all have ever seen that movie, it's just this idea that motorcycles are fun for the whole family, that you can get out there and just have a really good time, and you don't have to be this like expert. Now, of course, at the same time, there's MotoGP, there's the Isle of Man TT, and things were kind of dividing. It wasn't just on the dirt side. On the, let's say, the Isle of Man side, that trial, just the roads got better and the bikes got faster, and it was the same thing, but it turned into a different sport of going, 80 miles an hour, and then 90 miles an hour, and then 100 miles an hour, until now they're 200 and plus miles an hour. But it wasn't as specialized a thing, and I think that it really got more at what the reason that the everyday rider like you all and me, the reason we ride is for this transformative, thrilling experience where you're in control, you're piloting yourself around on this, for lack of a better word, kind of ridiculously impractical machine, completely exposed to the elements. It doesn't even stand upright. Yeah, it has to have a little stick that kicks out that holds it up from falling over. So, I found it really interesting. I really think I believe that the Scrambler is kind of like the missing link. And next week, we're going to dig into a little bit more how that link has kind of come back. And I would argue has really been the reason for the survival of motorcycling, and the revival of the motorcycle culture that I think that we're going through right now, or at least we've seen over the last 10 years. So, yeah, that's part one. Next week we'll come back for part two, which is really interesting. The birth of kind of bringing it back together again and how that happened. So, yeah. Thanks for listening along there. Let's take a last look at some comments here and say idea. All right, we got Charles says, it would be cool to have a sponsor dollar graph to show support. That's a great idea. I think we should definitely, Grant, take notes on that. We should definitely do that. Confetti says, well, I got to make a trip to KY, but unfortunately can't join that. Okay. We have several sponsors already. Grant does mention, yes, and we have several sponsors. We are very thankful for that, and the team is really excited as well. Yeah, and Grant says we'll do a roll call. So yeah, we'll let y'all know everybody who's contributed, including Dan and Jim. Let's see, and Charles. Jordy says, are you guys doing a Jay Leno show again with the 450 lines? Is he still doing those? You know, I contacted Jeff Buchanan, who's a reporter. He did a story on us last year, knows Jay pretty well. And he said that Jay is not really doing a lot of motorcycle riding. You know, he had an accident on an Indian, got clotheslined in a parking lot. And I think his riding is kind of coming to an end a little bit. So we'll see. I've got a good word in with a friend of his to see if we can get back on again. But we'll see. We'll see. Bay at Sep says, you're raising the bar. I think that's a good thing. Batuhan Ozan says, you're a legend. No cap. Yijit Sifki, legend in the making. I don't know where all this is coming from. Maybe this is spam. Let's see. Yeah, we got a lot of spam comments. This is a first. We get spam comments. Yeah, we got hacked. Yep. Yeah, we got to get rid of that. First triple-digit viewers. Oh, my goodness. I wonder if that's bots or if we actually have 161 people watching. Goodness gracious. It's not a hack, just bots posting, yeah. David said, that's why mufflers sit high. You're right. Confetti says, it's been said, HD taken a bit of this for Sportster. Yep. Charles McGahagan says, the movie On Any Sunday was what really got me hooked. It came out in the early 70s and is still able to stream online. Yeah, I did mention that. I think that On Any Sunday got a lot of people riding motorcycles. And if you have a chance, you should watch it. And it really gets back to that kind of, anybody can go out and ride on the dirt or the street and have a really good time. Jeff Massey says, Steve jumping that fence stays with you a lifetime. Absolutely. Like Fonzie jumping the shark. Yep. KTM now owns Husqvarna, Gas, and WP suspensions, says Dave. Wow. Works progressive. KTM really is in the motorcycles now. Lo-Fi by Nature says, I learned to ride on a 74 Honda TL250 trials bike. I wish I still had that bike. Yep, a lot of people that had a Trail 70 or Trail 90 wish they still had it. They're worth a lot of money too now. And Jeff says, how does the high exhaust feel on your leg? I always wonder about the Griff. Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I haven't ridden the 450 Griffin a lot. And the Griffin on the exhaust on that one is further out than it will be for the production model. We have a lot of room to bring it in closer. But on the 250, you know, it's not bad. I can snug my leg up against the heat shield and I won't get burned. Now it does stick out a little bit, and that's going to be just like on your Triumph scrambler, you know, new Triumph scrambler. It's really hard to get a high pipe up the side and not have it interact with your leg a little bit. But we're going to get it real close. It'll be great, and it will not burn you or anything like that. But you can kind of know it's there. It's on a dirt bike. Dirt bikes will road it inside the chassis, typically, which doesn't look as cool. Dan says the CL450 was the best double overhead cam. Hodaka, yeah, I'm missing a bunch of brands. I didn't realize I have not mentioned everybody. Joel says this has been the best Ramblestream ever. Well, thank you very much. That's fantastic. Good to hear. Jose Barcar says mechanically raw fun. Yep, that's a great way to put it with scramblers too. Well, with motorcycles in general, I think the scrambler, the argument I'm trying to make is that the scrambler in some ways is the epitome of motorcycling. It's just this bike that can street, road, gravel. It's not a dirt bike that you can't take on the highway. You know, it's something that does everything. And that's what rambling is all about. And that's what we are arguing, is that rambling is what motorcycling is. If you detach all the excess, computers and chips and rider aids and all the stuff that's kind of become glued to the motorcycles over the last 40 years, for a variety of reasons. Some of them are good. I'm not arguing against, ABS, all the rider aids that we have, but a lot of these things are added because we've made the bikes do things that they become so specialized that they don't necessarily they don't necessarily need to do all these things that we're having them do. And that's what at Janus we're trying to do, is boil down the motorcycle back to distill it to the reason that we really get on two wheels in the first place. Confed says it's a lot to ramble over. Shout out from Portland. Oh, nice, Jose. Great. I had a lot of fun when I was out there, and we're excited to drop off another bike, or a bike, back at Sabatino Moto soon. Jim Bledsoe, my first car was a 67 Rambler. Well, then you'll appreciate that opening screen for this, the starting soon screen for the Ramblestream is the back of a Rambler. Love the line train whistle. Maybe you're hearing it in the background here. Yeah. I've grown up, I've always lived within the sound of a train, and so I don't even hear them anymore. We were at 177 at one point. Wow. That's incredible. Roger Jones says, Triumph did a good job moving the exhaust in on my 1200 Scrambler. Yeah, well, we're going to do our best to get it in as close as we can. So, last but not least, I need to mention that we are still open for the owner's edition, early edition Griffin 450, which is a special Griffin. It'll be the first batch of Griffins made. They will be available for another 8 days, I think. I forget the actual date. Is it April 1st? Yeah, we're closing the order window for the owner's edition. So I would encourage you to take a look at it. Go to our website. You can build your own Griffin. I'll just show you where that is. Go up here, motorcycles, Griffin 450, and it'll pull up all the information on the Janus Griffin, the heir to a long tradition of scramblers, a motorcycle that we're designing to be at home on the asphalt as well as the dirt, just like these old bikes were. If this page will ever load. I don't know if it will or not, but anyway, go check out the Griffin, build a couple, walk through. You can put all the different colors on them, see what they look like, and maybe it'll load here. There you go. There's the configurator. Right here you can select whether you want the fancy owner's edition, and there you have it. So thank you all very much for joining me for this. That really jumped up over 100. This very successful Ramblestream. I've had an absolute blast hanging out with you all, and I will be back next week for Ramblestream number 35, where we cover the denouement, the final story of the Scrambler and how it's kind of come back around to help motorcycle industry and create, recover the kind of motorcycling that we think really is at the essence of why we ride on two wheels. So thank you all, and good night.